All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. This is the second Q&A session for the Colorado Emergency Rental Assistance Program RFAs. So this includes both case review and administration, as well as housing stability services. Our plan for this session is really just to answer some questions that came in the last couple of days, and then open it up for whatever questions attendees might have. So it'll be very informal. We don't have a presentation, anything like that, but we will make this all available on our site as well. This question and answer session, because it is for both RFAs, it will be posted on both websites. So please keep an eye out for that if you want to go back to this. So a couple questions that came in, one of which is very important. You might have seen our edit to our previous Q&A session for housing stability services. I absolutely misspoke during that session. I apologize, but I had mentioned that only nonprofits can apply for this funding. That is incorrect. This funding is available for application by local governments, tribal governments, and for-profit organizations, as well as nonprofit organizations. So please keep that in mind when considering whether or not you want to apply. I will just dive into questions. So one that we've been receiving from a lot of agencies is whether rental assistance funds that tenants receive through family, friends, local organizations, and or religious communities counts towards the CERA 24-month look back. So we want to be really clear that only rental assistance that is connected to a local government, state government, or federal government funding source will count towards the 24-month look back. Any rental assistance that's provided by friends, family, local organizations, or religious communities, something like a GoFundMe, that kind of thing, is not connected to a local government, state government, or federal government, will not count towards the 24-month look back. Any questions on that front? Great. Okay. So in terms of pre-submitted questions, I'm just going to run through. Please feel free to raise your hand or put questions in the chat if you have follow-up questions on that. So we've been asked how many applications DOH estimates an organization should be processing for the case review and administration RFA. We can answer that a little bit in generalities. So the funding will allow for approximately 3,000 cases to be paid out per year, which comes out to 250 paid out per month. In terms of how many each organization will be responsible for, that is wholly dependent on who applies and what their capacity is. So that is why in the budget section, we ask for clarity as to what your agency has capacity to serve and how much funding you anticipate needing in order to meet that need. So we are unfortunately not able to give more clarity as to what the expectation is, because there is not really an expectation. The only one is that, we are able to administer all of the funding so that we can get that out to Coloradans in need. But that is why we have this RFA process and why we will be selecting the agencies that we select. It will be done based on capacity. The second question that we have is related, which is how many individuals or families do we hope that agencies administering housing stability services will be able to serve? This is absolutely dependent on the need. If we are getting a ton of need in housing stability services, then we hope that agencies will be able to adjust within reason, of course, to meet that need. So we're not really able to give you a number because it'll be wholly dependent on who is seeking those services and how many folks that encompasses. And our final pre-submitted question was, how many organizations does DOH roughly envisioning partnering with for each RFA? Again, this will be wholly dependent on who applies. If we only get applications from smaller agencies, then we will likely partner with more in order to be able to meet the capacity that we require. If only larger agencies apply, then it'll likely be less that we need to partner with. If there's a combination, which is very likely, then it will just be dependent on who, the grading system that we have, who ranks within the grading system, high enough on the grading system to be able to partner with, and whether those are smaller, larger agencies, a combination, etc. So I will open it up to questions from you all if you have any. please feel free to, you can either put them in the chat, you can raise your hand and ask them out loud, whatever is easiest for you all. Marissa, go ahead.
Hi, so I am tuning in from rural Southwest Colorado, and we're just trying to figure out like the scale of what we could potentially expect with submitting an RFA. We are more so looking at the housing stability services portion, just, with our capacity. And I'm wondering, so with housing stability services, I going through the RFA, I saw that there are like some clauses of like, you should be expecting to work with people from multiple different agencies. And, with that, we already do that. Would we also be like fielding support for like other kind of rollover parts of the state, or would it more so be within like the service areas that we list within our RFA?
I definitely think that it would be focused within the service areas that you list. I think that if you are seeing need outside of either what you have capacity for, or maybe folks are reaching out to your agency because they know it's trusted in your area, but those folks are a little bit too far outside of your, the area that you're able to serve, then we would ask that you please refer them to other agencies so that they can still receive the service. However, it's completely fine for you to outline a specific service area in your RFA. That is more than encouraged, particularly for housing stability services. We are not, hell-bent on only partnering with statewide agencies. It's simply that we need to be able to meet the need for the entire state. So depending on who applies, we will need to make sure that that need is met. And we will need to make the determination of who will be able to make sure that that is in fact the case.
Awesome. That's very helpful.
Happy to help. I think I saw a question come in through the chat. So Haley or Carly, go ahead.
Yeah, Mary had a question. Can you provide more clarification for what is allowable under other costs on the budget form? And this is something that we have in our public FAQs. So other costs refer to costs that are not explicitly listed in the RFA, but are associated within the scope of work. So that could be for case review and administration, something like eviction legal defense services. For HSS, that could be something like a call center function that could be used to provide HSS and funded through CERA. Maria, I don't know if you have something additional that you would like to add.
No, I think that's great. I think that that's exactly right, Carly. I wouldn't stress out too much about the other cost section. You are welcome to break things out as much as you need, so long as we on the DOH side are clear as to what's included where. So if you break things out into, administrative costs versus, well, technically HSS is all administrative costs, but if you want to break down the different costs, feel free to do so, so long as we have clarity as to what all is included and how things are broken down. Otherwise, because this is something that you will be billing an hourly rate for, and we have highlighted what is allowable in terms of what you can bill for under that $31.05 an hour that you are allowed to bill for HSS. If there is something that you feel is maybe outside of that scope that's listed, feel free to include that in other costs and add a note there clarifying whatever it is that you've added so that we understand when we see it. Go ahead, Mary.
So what about for the case review and management other costs it's on top of the $500 project delivery fee, not HSS? Or did I misunderstand that?
No, so there is not It's now that I'm thinking about it, it's really something that should not have been included in the budget line for case review and administration, because the only way that those cases are paid out and the only amount that is paid out is that $500 per case that's paid. So that is the fee that case review and administration agencies are allowed to bill per paid out case. So that
Oh.
encompasses all of the costs that you would be reimbursed for.
Okay, so then it's really based on the estimated number that you could serve.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you. And then I did read the Q&A, and it said that it was still to be determined whether you're doing reimbursements or advances for the.
That is correct. Yes. And I would encourage any agency to highlight in their RFA if we have not reached out, and that is something that your agency would be dependent on. For example, if you would need to have this be on an advanced basis, then please highlight that in the narrative so that we are clear. We are simply waiting for an answer from the powers that be as to whether this program will be allowed to provide advances. That is technically against state fiscal rules. And so we need to request a waiver to that effect.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Jane.
So can we go back to case review and administration? And so if you are working with people who are not paid out, that's a cost you absorb. There's no funding for that.
Yes, that is correct. Within, you're always welcome to submit a waiver if for whatever reason you feel like your agency, went back and forth for a very long time with a particular case, and you would like to determine whether or not you can claim the project delivery fee for that case, then you can certainly ask DOH if that would be a possibility. They do not anticipate that will happen often. Because the reason that project delivery fee is $500 is because it was raised to account for those cases that you work but aren't paid. So the project delivery fee, for full transparency, used to be $350. That was raised to $500 in order to account for these cases that you're working on but that are not ultimately paid out.
Okay. Is there some statistics on average number of cases that might be paid out and might not be paid out? Like if you do 10 cases, one usually gets paid out, or how?
I can give you a general idea that does fluctuate a bit. I can tell you that the agencies that are administrating our emergency rental assistance program right now are seeing a 77% approval rate.
Okay.
So approximately that's what we're seeing right now. I do anticipate that will likely be a bit lower in the beginning of CERA, simply because folks are used to a 12-month look back.
Yeah.
But this program has a 24-month look back. So I think initially a lot of people who apply may not be eligible for the funding. Hopefully we will catch that through the pre-application, but there will undoubtedly be some who get by.
Gotcha. Understandable. Thank you.
Absolutely. Marissa.
Thanks. So just to clarify, for the housing stability services, are billable hours kind of able to fall into two parts of actually just helping people with low access enroll for the CERA funding, and then also on the other side of that, whether or not they are selected for the rental assistance, helping with long-term housing stability case management. Am I understanding that correctly?
So housing stability services through this program is meant to be a short-term fix for an immediate problem. So someone who is experiencing housing instability right in that moment and needs referral for services, short-term case management when it comes to maybe relocation assistance, assistance applying or finding other resources, that kind of thing, but it is not meant to serve as long-term case management. However, finding a referral for long-term case management would be billable. So an agency is more than welcome to bill Housing Stability Services hours for time spent finding long-term case management for someone in need.
Got it. And then, so this can both be spent on, or like billable hours can be both for like people who were and were not accepted for the rental assistance. So say
Yeah.
someone applied. Okay, cool.
The only thing we want to be really clear about is for any agencies that apply for and receive both case review and administration and housing stability services, you cannot double bill for the client for both, for the same person and same hours. So if you have, for example, some smaller agencies will often have one person that is assigned to a case and will provide both housing stability services and case review and administration. They just cannot bill for the same hours.
Got it. And then just one kind of like granular question. I know that the base like billable hour rate is that like 3105, and that includes quite a few things. If we were to have like, you know, a few folks traveling through the 5-county region of the Southwest, this also like would gas and like transportation fall into that billable rate or other costs?
That's a good question. I don't know that we've ever considered that. Let me look into that. I will make sure to, if you could actually, if everyone could put their email and the agency that they work for into the chat, that way it'll make it easier for us to follow up directly. But we will also make sure to post answers for any questions in the FAQs as well.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Thank you for asking that. What other questions can we answer? Jane.
Is there a place I could find a list of who's currently providing these services, just so I can not duplicate efforts in my area? And
It's a very short list, so
Oh.
I can give it to you.
Yeah.
It's the CEDP, the Community Economic Defense Project, and La Puente Home
Okay.
here in Alamosa.
Okay.
They
Thank you.
are the, and actually, so CEDP is the only one currently providing housing stability services and case review and administration. La
Mhm.
Puente is only doing case review and administration. And actually, we do have Colorado Housing Connects, which is funded through the ERA program as well, that provides housing stability services.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else? Jane.
I'm full of questions.
Oh, please. This is your time.
Okay. So I jumped in with the HSS webinar, and I didn't catch the case review and administration one. So do you have funding set aside for case review? How much do you have estimates of funding available?
Yes. So it's not parsed out. Like we don't have set amounts that would go to each agency because that'll depend on, you know, what their capacity is and how much funding they would need. But we do have, so the full allocation for the CERA program for this fiscal year 25 is 25.6 million.
Mhm.
And so that is what we have available for this fiscal year. This amount will change because this funding is linked to tax funds, and so it could change and likely will year over year. We anticipate that on an annual basis it'll be between 15 and 30 million.
Mhm.
10% of that is allowed to go to HSS services.
Okay.
So for this fiscal year, it's, like 2.5 million.
Mhm.
And the rest would go to case review and administration.
Okay. So I have another question.
Go right ahead.
Disabled Resource Services is part of a network of what's called Center for Independent Living, and there are 9 of us in the state of Colorado. We're state certified to work with people who have disabilities. And I'm applying on behalf of my own CIL, Center for Independent Living, which is based in Larimer County.
Sure.
But there is potential that we do refer anyway. That is a large part of what we do. But there's a potential that we could provide services statewide through each Center for Independent Living. And I feel like that's a little ambitious at this point for this year. But I don't know. So for example, if we requested funds and provided services through another Center for Independent Living, is that allowed? Like we could pass through the funds to them if they were the ones who got the case funded?
That is a good question. Is there an overarching, for lack of a better term, like corporate structure?
There
Like-
is, but we operate quite independently within our service areas because it's such a large state, basically. There is a statewide agency, but it doesn't manage our daily operations. Does that make sense?
Sure. What I was wondering is if maybe the funding could go through the state or could go to the statewide agency in order to then be accessible to all. Because I mean, if we do advance, this won't be as big of a deal if we don't do advances. But if the money is advanced to one CIL and then it needs to be transferred to another, that's not going to be easy.
Right.
Or perhaps doable. But if it were all in one centralized location where all of the CILs are able to access it, then that could maybe be a possibility.
Okay. Give that some thought. Thanks.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, well, we will make sure to answer any outstanding questions and we can send over the FAQ answer or FAQ posted answer, I should say, individually, but also we will make sure to update the FAQs that are posted to our website. What we will do is any that came from this session, we will put them in either the Housing Stability Services or Case Review and Administration FAQ so that you can find it on the website. If anything else comes up, feel free to email me. That being said, I think that the intention of having these Q&A sessions is to, limit the individualized questions. That being said, please still send your questions. Just know that it's very possible that we will link you to the FAQs in response to your email, because we will try to make the answers to all questions available to all to just preserve fairness in the RFA process. But if there's no other questions, then I think that does it. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for joining. I know that it's, right in the middle of the day, so we really appreciate your time and hope that this was helpful.
Thank you.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
you.